let's do that. I call the meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Services Commission to order at 6 p.m. June 1st, 2021. And I need to read this little disclaimer about us meeting online. Pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, members of the West Sacramento Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Services Commission and staff will participate in this meeting via a teleconference. To reduce the spread of COVID-19, members of the public are asked to watch the meeting telecast on Wave Cable Channel 20 and to have submitted comments in writing by 5 p.m. on June 1st, 2021. So I will like to have our secretary call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Ahmad?
Present.
Commissioner Altamirano?
Present.
Commissioner Castro?
Present.
Commissioner Jans?
Mobilely present.
Thank you. Commissioner McTighe?
Present.
Commissioner Reed?
Present.
Commissioner Schatzel?
And present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Katie. That brings us, now, just so you know, if you want to speak, I do not have a full screen view of all of you. So use the raise hand in your participants section. Raise your hand to speak. Katie's going to be watching for you and alerting me if people want to speak. So we're going to proceed to item 1A today, which is the selection of commission chair and vice chair. So I would like to open the floor for nominations of commission chair. May I have any nominations, please? Are there any?
Commissioner Ahmad?
I would like to nominate Suzanne Reed for commission chair.
Thank you, and I appreciate the support from your side of the phone. Is there a second for that nomination?
Commissioner Reed, if and to other commissioners, if you'd like, I'm willing to also entertain a nomination. Otherwise, I'm happy to second the nomination as well.
And I am happy to nominate Dave Jans as chair. So if folks would step up and give a second to either or both nominations, we would appreciate it.
I second both.
Thank you. And that is?
Commissioner McTighe.
Thank you, Commissioner McTighe. Mm-hmm. Are there any further nominations? I would like to withdraw my name from the nominations. Acceptable, Secretary, Ms. Secretary?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations for chair? Then hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote on the single nomination that we have for chair, and that is for Dave Jans to be chair of the commission. If there's no comment or discussion, is there any? Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Ahmad?
Aye.
Commissioner Altamirano?
Aye.
Commissioner Castro?
Aye.
And Commissioner Jans?
Aye.
Commissioner McTighe?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
And Commissioner Schatzel?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, for the nomination. Commissioner Reed, I really appreciate that. And thank you all for the confirmation.
And Dave, the gavel is yours now.
This is the worst possible timing. I'm actually trying to
Do you
convert
have
over
an
to
agenda in front of you?
I'm getting it up right now. I just, I was out delivering all-star notifications to the Little League players. And so I just got back to my home office. So you'll have to give me 1 second while I bring this up.
Well, I'll help you out for a second.
Yes, I appreciate that.
The next item is to call for nominations for vice chair.
Well, I happily nominate you, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there further nominations until our chair is up and running on his computer?
Thank you. Can you confirm who seconded that motion, please?
I believe
That was Carlo Altamirano.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Altamirano. I appreciate that. Are there any further nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, before I ask, is there anyone who wants to comment or have discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, we call the roll, please.
Commissioner Ahmad?
Aye.
Commissioner Altamirano?
Aye.
Commissioner Castro?
Aye.
Commissioner Jans? Chair Jans, sorry.
Would you come back to him? He's just connecting.
Commissioner McTighe?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Schatzel?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Jans.
And I am bringing up the agenda right now. June 1st. Okay, so if I'm correct, Commissioner Reed, the next item on our agenda is item number 2.
We're going to item 1B, which
Item
is
1B.
presentation by the public on matters not on the agenda.
Okay, I'm caught up right here. Okay.
There you go. It's all yours.
Thank you. Sorry about the hastiness about all this, but I'm back. Right now, item number 1B would be presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of our commission. Just to be advised to all attendees, the commission is prohibited by law from discussing any of the issues brought up not on the agenda at this time. Are there any matters at which the public would like to speak?
I have not received any comments in writing, and if there, I'll wait to see if anyone here raises a hand to speak. I'm not seeing any.
Okay, so hearing none and seeing no hands raised, we're going to move on to item number 1C, which is communications from commissioners. Are there any parks commissioners that would like to speak? Commissioner Reed?
Thank you. I am the representative of West Sacramento on the YOLO Aging and Adult Services Commission. And at our last meeting, the primary focus of our discussion was whether the commission wanted to submit applications for the American Recovery Funds that are flowing to the counties and the state and to the cities. We decided that we would like to do so. And the application that we are submitting is to extend broadband service to those folks who have not had access to it, to coordinate on that effort that's taking place both from the state and the county level, but also to extend a program that was begun by the Yellow Healthy Aging Alliance to reach out to seniors who were even more isolated as a result of the COVID pandemic, and also to help them develop their digital connection skills, either through provision of actual hardware or underwriting the cost of connecting to the internet, and then also teaching them through a program, hopefully, of intergenerational interaction to teach seniors how to be more confident and with digital connection and using things like Zoom and telehealth. So we're in the process of developing that application, which will be submitted, and contemporaneously with that, a department at UC Davis is going to be also submitting an application for monies that would be to have education for students about interacting with senior populations and also learning how to teach seniors how to become connected and proficient digitally. So that is what we're doing, and I'm happy to answer any questions on the recovery funds process, which is being developed right now. And I don't, the idea is that there would be coordination throughout the county and with the cities on implementing these programs to reach our seniors and other folks that find themselves isolated and under these situations, and to extend it beyond the impact of something like the pandemic to also include things like response to emergencies, and especially in some of the rural areas or more agricultural lands, the wildfire emergencies that we can expect to occur in the coming season, which has already begun. And that the only other item that I had was that I had participated in the first workshop for our climate action plan for the city of West Sac, and that is being coordinated with the Delta Conservancy on their program for risk assessment. And it was well attended, but I encourage everyone to sign up for notifications. It's on the city website, and participate in future meetings for development of the climate action plan, which will help build resiliency within our city and assist in addressing the impacts of climate change. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reed. Any questions regarding that? Commissioner Schatzel? I believe you're on mute, sir.
No, I didn't have a question. I'm sorry. It was just a further comment.
Oh, go ahead. The floor is yours.
As I'm looking over Commissioner Reed's shoulder, I see the ball field, and this is going to sound way out there, but the Oakland A's are making a lot of noise about we need a new stadium. And the ballpark here in West Sac was originally designed, as I understand it, to accommodate attendance that met the minimum major league standards. So I was wondering, is there any discussions, however preliminary, about talking to the A's about coming here since they want a new stadium so badly?
Commissioner Schatzel, not that I'm aware of.
All right. I am not surprised. That's okay. But it's out there, and the A's keep talking about it. And our stadium is, unless I had wrong information, it can be expanded to accommodate them someday down the road if it works out. Thank you.
Thank you both for the comments. Vice Chair Reed, I did want to say that just commend you for the work you're doing for the seniors in the community. I think it's fantastic what you brought up. And I really hope we can help be a part of that. If there's anything that we can do as a commission, I'd love to hear more about that. I think that's a fantastic thing that you're doing. Are there any other comments or communications from other commissioners? I don't see any hands raised. I wanted to fill the commission in on some things I've been doing. I apologize. I think I sent you all a communication regarding the last meeting. I wasn't able to attend because it was the opening day of the West Sacramento Little League. As some of you know, I'm heavily involved in volunteering with them, serving as vice president this season and in past seasons. I really enjoy it. It's a great thing for our community, great thing for the kids. Anyone who's lived in West Sacramento for some time know that Little League and baseball is kind of our thing here in West Sacramento. We've had some pretty successful teams in the past. And recently we underwent a complete renovation of the home field, Memorial Park in kind of the center of West Sacramento. A collaborative effort between the city and the league and the community is fantastic. So after a year of no baseball last year, there wasn't much that would keep me away from missing opening day. So I apologize for missing the last meeting, but it wasn't just for no reason at all. And actually this Saturday, we completed the season. We weren't sure when we started what would happen with COVID and the pandemic and where we were at. Things were just starting to open up in in April when we started our season. And so we even offered a full refund to all registered players if we were canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But that didn't happen. I wanted to thank the city and the Parks Department. I know that Chris Froschog and some members of the Little League volunteers worked on a COVID safety plan that was, unusual in addition to our season. That was very extensive, and we communicated that to the players, parents, coaches, and we've done everything we can to make sure that we had a safe season, and we were able to complete that. So our season wrapped up Saturday. We will start our Tournament of Champions here soon. And then today, we tried to squeeze all of these things into a short season of only 2 months, was All-Star notifications. So all the kids who were nominated to be a part of the All-Star team, these are the teams that you'd see like in the Little League World Series on ESPN. These are the teams, this is where they begin. They begin on a Little League All-Star team, and then they make their way through a tournament and eventually to the big game, the Little League World Series. I think it was 2 years ago, there was a Rockland Tri-Cities team that made it pretty far, if you follow the Little League players. And then the other part of the communication is that I wanted to be happy to announce that Memorial Park here in West Sacramento has been selected to host the 12-year-old All-Star Tournament. So we've been working with Sam Cooney and the Parks Department to try to get our fields in the best possible condition we can. We're going to have people from all over the region coming to be a part of this tournament. So thank you to the Parks Department, who's been working hard to fertilize the fields and water them. And we're hoping to see what we can do as a Little League and the city together to just do anything that we can to make the fields look as presentable as possible, because we want the kids to really have a good time, and also to represent, West Sacramento as a Little League city. So I'm really happy to announce that. And if you have any questions about the Little League or anything else, please let me know. Any other communications? I think we went over that. There was no other communications, correct? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to I believe this is item 2, which would be presentation on Girl Scouts Troop 447 Clarksburg Branch Line Trail Bronze Award Project from Wayne Gutierrez. Are you here? Oh, there you are.
Hi.
I see you. Hi.
Thank you so much. Members of the Parks and Recreation and Intergenerational Commission, thank you for having Troop 447. The Girl Scouts are very excited to be here and a little nervous. I'm going to go ahead and share our screen and let them begin.
Don't be nervous. We're all friendly, I promise.
Go ahead, girls, take it away.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Eliana, and I am with Girl Scout Troop 447. We are a local West Sacramento Girl Scout troop. Tonight, we are presenting our 2 Bronze Award projects. The 2 Bronze Award projects are the Clarksburg Branch Line Trail and the Endangered Species in West Sacramento. Let me introduce the Girl Scouts of Troop 447. My name is Aliana, and I am in 5th grade at Southport Elementary School. I've been a Girl Scout for 6 years. Zen.
My name is Zen. I am in 5th grade. I go to Delta Elementary Charter School, and I've been in Girl Scouts for, I think, 5 or 6 years. Hope.
My name is Hope, and I'm in 5th grade, and I go to OG, and I've been in Girl Scouts for 6 years. Jenna.
Hello, my name is Jenna. I'm 11, and I'm in 5th grade going into 6th. I go to Our Lady of Grace, and then I've been in Girl Scouts for about 6 years. Annalise.
My name is Annalise. I'm in 5th grade. I go to Stonegate Elementary, and I've been in Girl Scouts for 6 years. Olivia.
Hello, my name is Olivia, and I'm in 5th grade. I go to Stonegate Elementary and will be soon going to Churchill, and I've been in Girl Scouts for 5 to 6 years. Jessica.
My name is Jessica. I'm in 5th grade. I go to Stonegate Elementary School, and I have been in Girl Scouts for 5 years. Haley.
My name is Haley. I'm in 5th grade. I go to school at Bridger Island Elementary, and I've been in Girl Scouts for 5 to 6 years.
Pardon me, I'm having some technical difficulties. Eliana, do you want to go ahead and continue as I try to pull up the slides?
Okay. First, we will hear from the Clarksburg Branch Line Trail Bronze Award team. Girl Scout Troop 447 is working on earning their Bronze Award. The Bronze Award is the highest award a Girl Scout junior can earn. We chose the Clarksburg Branch Line Trail because we wanted to improve it and make it safer. The Clarksburg Branch Line Trail runs through West Sacramento. It is 4.25 miles long. Next, we will hear from Jessica.
Step 1, brainstorm ideas. As Girl Scouts, we are always thinking about ways to make the world a better place. When we began thinking of ideas for our Bronze Award project, we thought, what could we do to make our city better? An idea came to mind. We all enjoy the beauty and nature of the Clarksburg Trail. Why not add a few useful things to make it even better? We thought of adding more lights, trash/recycling bins, signs, benches, and doggy bag stations. Step 2, research the trail. Before we hiked the trail, we researched about it and the animals that live there. The people that live near the Clarksburg Trail requested that we pave the gravel for cyclists to have more space. This could affect the animals that live there, such as burning their paws, and the construction could scare them away. Step 3, hike the trail. On 2 different days, our troop hiked the Clarksburg Trail. While we were hiking it, we noticed that lights are only located at some selection of the trail. There are only a few trash bins, and there is no place to sit and relax. Outreach. We polled the community and created a presentation for the city, parks, and recreation commission. And now Haley.
What did we learn? Things we learned. We learned the history of the Clarksburg Trail, where trash cans and recycling bins are on the trail, what animals live along the trail, and where different signs are located. The history of the Clarksburg Trail. Originally part of the Sierra Northern Railroad, formerly the Yolo Shoreline Railroad. The city of West Sac decided to create a hiking trail to connect the cities. Tracks were removed. The trail ran for about 3 miles from Walks Drive to S River Road by Gregory Avenue. The trail was paved with crushed concrete. In 2012, the city paved a segment between Muscovy Road and Walks Drive. Future plans for the Clarksburg Trail. Possible bridge to link the trail to River City High School. The city purchased 9.8 miles of right-of-way for possible expansion of trail. Trash and recycling bins. There are a few trash and recycling bins. They are near the Southport Town Center Plaza, only along the paved section at street intersections. Wildlife, birds and nests. Crows, pigeons, egrets, blackbirds, pelicans, seagull, hummingbird, and cormorant are birds that live along the trail. Small mammals such as jackrabbits and animal holes. Squirrels, frogs and lizards, and river otters. Trail signs. Do's and don'ts of the trail. Leashed pets, some signs are in disrepair, pedestrian and bike crossing, animal waste. And now on to Hope.
We took a poll regarding the Clarksburg Trail to get input from our neighbors here in West Sacramento. We asked 5 questions. Question 1, do we think we need more lights? As far as needing more lights, there was mixed responses. Some said yes, the trail could use more lights, while others voiced concerns such as more lights causing light pollution, or for not only homes around the trail, but also potentially light pollution for local wildlife in the area. There was also some concern about unwanted activity by adding lights at night. For question 2, we asked, do you think we need more trash cans or recycle bins around the trail? Most people who responded seemed to agree that it would be beneficial to add more garbage and recycling. There was a concern that more refuge stations would bring disposal of unwanted items. For question 3, we asked, if the city added lights, would it be okay with red or orange colored lights? It seemed like people were either indifferent about the colored lights or didn't have enough information about it. For question 4, we asked, would it be okay with lights with sensors that automatically turn on and off? There was one person who lived along the trail that said they didn't want lights to go on and off. For question 5, do you think we need more Animal Crossing signs or other signs? If so, what signs? There didn't seem to be much of a response for this. It was nice to get input from the community to understand their needs and wants for the Clarksburg Trail. Now on to Jenna.
Observations and suggestions. Signs. We think more signs on the trail would be helpful and suggest the following. Different signs for those who use the trail, such as horseback riders, bikers, and joggers. A sign for the hill that goes down to the levee to warn people it is steep. A sign to show where the trail ends. This will also help people feel happy knowing they finished the trail. Trail improvements. We feel the trail can improve by replacing any broken mile markers, such as the numbers 2.5, 2.75, 3.0, and then 3.25. Making the trail more accessible by changing the gravel roads to pavement and add mile markers to these areas. The pavement would make it easier to walk/bike the trail, adding proper fencing between the trail and private property, adding animal waste disposal stations and more trash and recycling bins, adding benches and water stations for dogs or people. Safety. We feel the following would make the trail more safe. Add low-level lights to the trail in areas without light, south of Target and the high school. Add emergency call boxes that start recording when you push the button. They're similar to the ones at UC Davis. Add pedestrian crossing lights where the trail crosses to the Davis Road, and then adding handrails to the steep stairs at the end of the trail. Moving on to our second Bronze Award project.
Our second Bronze Award project is the endangered species of West Sacramento, which the girls Addison, Annalise, me, and Zen worked on. So what we did was, the first step was to research. The second was to create a basic outline of the task. Third was to learn more, so more of the research. And step 4 was to combine the research and learning. And step 5 was to let people know and get the word out. Zen?
First, we researched types of endangered species in West Sacramento, like birds or mammals or amphibians and reptiles. And then we started research, and then once we chose some, we started researching individual species of endangered species so that we could have an extra plan.
Step 2 was to create a basic outline. So Zen, as I know, started creating a website. So on the internet, people could also learn and know about the importance of the endangered species in West Sacramento. Another thing we did was to make a draft pamphlet, which was more physical, which we plan to post in different areas of West Sacramento. And we also did some arts and crafts, which might interest children and kids. So, for example, I started drawing a few pictures of the animals that are endangered. Annalise.
We were going to visit a place with wildlife and observe the endangered species. And I wrote down how to plant a tree.
Zen, I believe it is your turn.
So we combined research and learning by putting the information into the draft website and pamphlet and making edits. We're in the process of doing this. Back to you, Annalise.
We're going to make the final products, make papers of all our information, and we're going to give them to our friends and family. And we're also going to put them in little libraries and on light posts.
And that concludes our Troop 447 Girl Scout Bronze Award presentation. Thank you very much, Girl Scouts. You did an awesome job. Thank you, commissioners and member of the city staff, for allowing us to do this presentation. Oh, and may I also add, Cammie was a member of the first team. I'm not sure if she's still here, but she compiled a letter addressed to Tracy Michael and the Parks and Recreation and Intergenerational Commission and dropped off a hard copy of what we presented tonight. Thanks again.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners?
Well, if I may.
I think Commissioner McTighe had a raised hand, and we'll come back to you, Commissioner Schatzel. Go ahead, no Commissioner McTighe.
I just want to say that all you girls did a fantastic job. Great speaking skills. I loved it.
Fantastic. Commissioner Schatzel?
I completely agree. I think they did an enormous amount of work, tremendous presentation. The Westack Trail Riders cleaned up the the trail a couple of weeks ago. There was a lot of work there too, but Girl Scouts, the work was terrific. I like the talking to your neighbors idea. I thought that was a good job to reach out to see what other people think. So fantastic work. Thank you.
Agreed. Commissioner Reed, or Vice Chair Reed, pardon me.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo the praise. It was very professional what you did in terms of the methodology that you used. It was very systematic, and you identified the problem and went about researching it the right way, and you didn't carry your assumptions forward without checking for more opinions. So I'm just very, very impressed. You guys are all superstars as far as I'm concerned. Thank you very much.
Seeing no other comments, I'll go ahead and chime in. I 100% agree with the other commissioners. I thought that was by far one of my favorite presentations. You did a fantastic job, and I hope we can meet some of those safety needs. Maybe as a city, we can figure out how to place some of the city signs up on the trail. And I don't know if it's outside of the realm of thought to maybe the Girl Scout troop could even paint some of the mile markers onto the existing signs. I don't want to overstep, but I don't think that would be outside the realm of possibilities. And I also wanted to tell each of you in the Girl Scout troop that I'm very impressed. You are leaders in this community. You're already showing that. And what I love most about it is you're the future of our community. And to see this kind of leadership stepping forward is very impressive. And it makes me very happy to be a West Sacramentan. So thank you so much for the presentation. All right, I'm going to bring the agenda back up. Oh gosh, did I lose it? No, here it is. Okay. So moving on to item number 3 is a presentation on outdoor recreation programs related to the Sailing and Rowing Club by Paul Reyes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Paul Reyes, Recreation Manager. A few months ago, I was asked to provide some information regarding the relationship between the city, port property, and some of the activities that are going on at the port. I have invited Program Manager Megan Stiles from the Port of West Sacramento, and she has a presentation and could give you a better understanding of what goes on at the port. Megan?
Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. I have some problems with that every time I have a presentation, so good. So good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. So tonight, I'm gonna go ahead and try to share my screen real quick. Let's see. Can everyone see that? Perfect. So tonight I'm going to give a fairly, I'll try to be as brief as I can presentation. And sorry, just to back up. So yeah, I'm a program manager with, I work half in the city manager's office and I work in the Port of West Sacramento as well. And I'm helping to kind of manage some of the expansion projects that are going on with the recreation opportunities over at the port. So it seemed fitting for me to kind of give this presentation. It's just going to be an overview of the recreation opportunities that are currently going on at the port. And I'm happy to answer any questions at the conclusion of this. So just to give a little bit of background, the port was or is an independent special district and created by the state of California. And our primary cargoes are rice and cement. So we don't do big bulk cargo, kind of what you would typically think of as a port. We are a smaller port. In 2006, the city of West Sacramento assumed management and responsibility for the port. And then in 2013, the Port Commission adopted a landlord operating model. And essentially we have one major lessee, SSA Pacific, and they run the maritime operations at the port. And then we have other various kind of smaller lessees that do run other various operations at the port as well. And we act as a landlord in that. The Port Commission, similar to this commission, is comprised of one Yolo County supervisor and 4 representatives from the city of West Sacramento, and those are all appointed by the mayor. Over at the port, we have 4 clubs that currently have agreements with the port, UC Davis Rowing, the Lake Washington Sailing Club, River City Rowing Club, and then the Washington Outboard Club. And I'll kind of go through what each of those are in the next couple of slides. So this is just kind of a Google Earth image of the footprint that, that those current clubs have. So I'm hoping you can see my cursor, but kind of like this area here. It's not a really big area, so they're pretty compacted there. The Lake Washington Sailing Club has a very small kind of docking area here. The Outboard Club, which is a fishing club, they have an access point here. River City Rowing actually has a physical facility. And then UC Davis Rowing actually has the biggest, theirs I believe is 4,000 square feet. And they have a facility here. So all, like I said, all very kind of compacted into this area. I'll go into a little bit more detail later on about this expansion project area because it's a really good opportunity to expand the recreation opportunities that are available. So how do these clubs exist at the port? These clubs have operated at the port for decades under license agreements. They pay for their own electricity and water, so they are, their own entity at the port. It's an extremely low cost financial arrangement with the port. They're about $3,000 a year, and that's only to cover staff time. And then when the city took over the port in 2006, increasing the recreation opportunities for local, specifically West Sacramento residents, was a really big concern for the commission. And so they, keeping these clubs and encouraging them to reach out to West Sacramento residents and have specials, make sure that people are aware that these opportunities exist. They really help facilitate those recreational opportunities for local residents. The commission did decide and have updated those agreements at various points to require some of the clubs to do outreach to West Sacramento residents, provide opportunities for youth, and just really find unique ways to encourage local residents to take advantage of these really unique opportunities, recreation opportunities that we have here in West Sacramento. So this is just kind of a really quick, I won't go through every bullet point, history of the Sailing Club. They have been there for the longest. They were founded in 1933 and were established as a nonprofit in 1939. And then the current clubhouse was built in 1963. So as I go in to kind of talk about the expansion project, you can see it's very much so time for an updating of that. This is a couple of stats on the Sailing Club. So there's 186 members. They have 32 members that are West Sacramento residents. It's completely volunteer run. And, integration into West Sacramento specifically, they do provide camps during the summer for Camp West. They provide windsurfing instruction to West Sacramento Parks and Recreation staff. And they provide scholarships and have a junior program as well. Just kind of as a caveat, these numbers are from 2019. They are kind of for all the clubs, as you can imagine, with the COVID-19 pandemic, it really affected how these clubs were able to run and have memberships. So the 2020 numbers wouldn't really be an accurate reflection. So just kind of keep that in mind. These are just some pictures that they have provided. River City Rowing Club, they were started in 1983, and then they added a junior rowing program, which is now a very large program, in 1995, and were incorporated as a nonprofit in 2009. And they really just want to get people out on the water, so you don't have to be a competitive rower to participate in their membership program. Really, any activity level, any age, they just want to get people the opportunity. And this is similar stats to what I provided for the sailing club. They have 150 adult rowers, 17 from West Sac, 45 junior rowers. I do know that this number specifically for West Sacramento youth has almost doubled from the last time that we talked to them into 2020, just given, everybody's home. There were, hopefully moving forward, there are more, but at that, last year, there were very few opportunities that were safe that youth could take advantage of. So their youth program did grow quite a bit, especially in West Sacramento. Unlike the sailing club, they do actually have 2 full-time directors and 8 part-time staff and coaches, which they've had to hire a number of new coaches as well, just given with the COVID-19 pandemic, the ratios were much smaller. So they do have a larger staff now. And then the Outboard Club, they are the biggest club. They have 600 members and they are almost always maxed out. So they're a member-oriented fishing club. The barrier to that club is a little bit higher just because you do need to own a boat and a towing vehicle in order to be a member there. They don't provide any type of rental services. But they are required, which again, this is kind of when I was speaking to what the commission was requiring of these clubs. They are required to maintain a 25% West Sacramento resident poll, assuming that there are West Sacramento residents that are actually on the wait list. So every June, they are able to poll however many spots they don't have, or excuse me, however many spots they have to fill. They just need to make sure that West Sac residents are given that first right of refusal. And then UC Davis Rowing. Obviously not necessarily as accessible to every single West Sacramento resident because it's a collegiate sport. It is now just a club sport. So they're a little bit less involved because they're not at kind of the competitive level that they were before. We have a really unique kind of stretch, which I've shown a picture of. There's like a perfect 2,000 meter 4-lane race course for practice. So, we're able to provide them a really unique space to practice that they really couldn't get anywhere else. It's open to all UC Davis students of all skill levels who want to try the sport, and they do practice during the entire school year. All of these clubs have some level of community involvement, again, which is at the direction of the commission. They do school PE class rowing lessons. There are tuition breaks for junior rowers. And also with the sailing club, they provide those scholarships. These clubs participate in the coastal cleanup. They support local nonprofits and they help support, local rowing clubs and other clubs that might need assistance in the area. So they do work specifically with the Parks and Rec department. Parks and Rec has worked with them, specifically the rowing club and the sailing club over the past 5 years. And the Parks Department helps promote their programs, again, to help get the message out to West Sacramento residents that these opportunities exist. So they advertise those in their playbook brochure. And then in turn, the clubs allow parks the opportunity to bring students through their after-school program and have an opportunity to experience rowing and sailing where they might not have gone out of their way to try that in their own time. This is just kind of some pictures. They do team building sessions for the summer interns. Again, they've done coastal cleanup for a number of years, make donations to local charities. So I'll talk a little bit about the boat club expansion project. So River City Rowing and Lake Washington Sailing Club are looking to expand their operations at the port. So like I showed in a couple of slides back, this green area is kind of where all of the clubs currently are, kind of crammed into. But there became an opportunity for this 1 acre site that is in blue here to become available for an expansion project with the rowing club and the sailing club. So this is I think this picture is about a year old, but they have already done quite a lot of work to kind of bring this site up to developable status. So, they've cleared all of it out. They've graded the land so that it's, more even. They've cleared a lot of invasive species away so they can do a new dock over here. I'll kind of go into that, but this is just for reference. So River City Rowing is over in this area, and then UC Davis Rowing is here, and then the Sailing Club and the Outboard Club. And so they're intending to expand into this whole entire area here. So this is kind of a mock-up of what the clubs have proposed. And
if I could just jump in here real quick, yeah. Megan, I just want to let the Girl Scout Troop 447 know that they're welcome to stick around and watch, but they're not obligated to continue the meeting if they don't want to. If you have homework or whatever you got to get to, it's totally fine. I just want to let you know.
I appreciate you telling them that thing. I was going to say that, but I'm glad you did. So this is kind of a mock-up of the expansion project that they're looking to do. So River City Rowing, their kind of main focus on doing this expansion is to, one, make it safer for their rowers that are doing, they have a pretty intense training facility outside of just the water. And so they are very exposed currently. So they are looking to kind of expand those opportunities. They want to put in a running trail here and kind of enclose themselves, especially for the junior rowers, so that it's a safer area for them to do that outdoor recreation. And then the boat club is specifically looking to do boat storage. So they would be able to put about 300 boats in this area here, whereas right now they have no boat storage at all. So any West Sacramento residents that have a boat that do not have anywhere to store it, this would be an opportunity. And the Sailing Club is going to be required to offer first right of refusal to West Sacramento residents to take advantage of that as well. This is kind of what the Sailing Club is envisioning. And then I'll just go over this very quickly. The other kind of unique part about the expansion project that specifically the Rowing Club is looking to do is to build, for one, make the dock and this ramp ADA compliant, which it's currently not, and that's a really important feature. And also building a covered shelter here that would be able to accommodate 100 people and would be available for the city of West Sacramento, potentially on a quarterly basis to rent out for various events. The city doesn't currently have a lot of areas that can hold that many people that are covered, especially near the water. So it would be a really great opportunity. They are going to be putting in a number of trees, so a lot of shade, a lot of greenery around this area. And they do work with the planning department and have to meet, any other requirements that anybody would normally have to meet to do development on a site. And this is a mock-up of the shelter. So the project goals are going to be to provide space for current and future growth to, like I said, increase the security and safety for the junior rowers, create a boat storage facility, become ADA compliant. And then the biggest one that would probably be of the most interest to this commission is to provide low-cost canoe and kayak memberships. So that's not something that is currently available just due to the space constraints. But River City Rowing is looking into having an opportunity for West Sacramento residents to buy a 1-year or a yearly membership, which would be very low cost, that they would be able to actually access the site and check out canoe and kayaks to kind of, bebop around in the Deepwater Ship Channel. So an opportunity that's never been there before for residents. The other part that goes into this expansion project is a community service plan. So each of the sailing club and the rowing club are, as part of their lease negotiations with the port, are required to come up with community service plans. And essentially those are, asking them, how are they going to find ways to engage West Sacramento residents? Because we don't want just this to be an expansion project that their members who live outside of the city take advantage of. We really want, the commission would really like more West Sacramento residents to take advantage of this. So, some pieces of that community service plan includes more outreach at schools, free days for youth. Those are kind of in the works, but those are the things that the commission is really looking for. And then we have been working with the Parks Department on developing an Adopt a Trail program. So the sailing, the rowing club, and the outboard club are going to be adopting a 3-mile stretch, so 1 mile per club of trail near the Deepwater Ship Channel. So staff is going to be working with the Parks and Rec Department to kind of more formalize a program that would then, be intended to use these clubs as an example moving forward that other organizations, nonprofits, membership organizations like this could take advantage of. And, it would serve as a really good way to help upkeep our trails. So that pretty much concludes the presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to field them.
Do we have any questions from commissioners for Megan Stiles? I'm looking here on that. Oh, Commissioner Schatzel.
Hi, Megan. The boats, in the sail club, they pay a slip fee to their organization, and then the organization then pays to the port. Is that how that works?
They are under a lease term with the port.
Do we know how much each boat owner pays to the organization to meet the lease agreement?
I'm not sure. They have a membership price, but that's not tied to the cost of the lease.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So the lease with the port is to lease the property essentially to have their operations there. But the actual membership fee to the members isn't like that number divided by the number of members. They have a set membership fee based on the cost they have to operate, and that's how that is off-put to their membership. And the sailing club, the rowing club, and the outboard club all have different membership prices.
Yeah. So then however they come up with the lease amount doesn't really matter. They just come up with the money, sell hot dogs if they want, just pay the price, right?
Yeah, well, the intention is to make the lease, at least for the boat club expansion project, which is where the new lease negotiations are coming in. The intention is not for the port to make money on this. It's going to be low entry barrier, just like it is now. But we want to ensure that when they enter into a lease with the port, they're not just taking advantage of the property and being able to expand without including and being encouraged to bring more West Sacramento residents. So sure. The community service plans are kind of playing into what that final negotiated price for the lease would be.
Yeah. Okay. I like the plan of the expansion and the additional use of the facility. And then later on in our agenda, we're talking about a park impact fee. And I didn't see this project listed in there anywhere. So either A, I missed it, which is entirely possible, or B, maybe we're so early in the planning stages of the port property that it just wouldn't be included in the list at this point.
I don't know at what point. I'll let Rick chime in if you know the answer to that question, Rick.
Hi there, Rick Toft. I'm the general manager of the port. I've just been lurking in the background here. Great job, Megan. So no, this project is being paid for by the clubs themselves. It will not feed into the city's impact fees for parks.
Okay, thanks, Rick. One more. Does the port have tours for the public? Are they looking at it? I mean, probably last year is an impossible thing to do given the COVID and all of that, but are they looking at having tours in the future, or do they have them now?
No, not really. And the reason for that is one, it's leased out now. So we have an operator who's running a business, but more importantly is that it's a secure facility per Homeland security regulations. You have to have credentials. You have to have a TWIC card to enter the facility, and it's a challenge to get the general public those credentials. It costs you can get one, but it's about $100. And so we do targeted tours occasionally with a specific purpose, but not general tours for the public.
Okay, thanks. I think city after city, they're always asking, what makes us different? Why would anybody want to come to our city? And somebody shared with me a long time ago that they think the port is just a beautiful thing to watch operate. If you were to sit on the south side of the canal and look back at the way they load the boats, they unload the boats, the way they come down the canal, all of that. I just have always thought that the port is just a great resource for stuff like was discussed tonight, tourism and all of that stuff. So thanks for your question or your answers. Thanks.
I see a hand up by Julie.
Yeah, I see it as well. Julie, would you like to comment?
Yes, Megan, that was a fabulous presentation. I actually, as a resident here for over a decade and somebody who really engages in water sports, had no idea that there were 3 different groups. I thought it was just one group out there. So I went to, as you were presenting, I went to the Port of Sacramento's website, and there is one mention in the bottom paragraph of those 3 organizations, but there's no hyperlink to their website. So maybe a hyperlink on the website, on the port's website, as well as the West Parks and Rec, that might be helpful to get more information out. And then I would also echo what Commissioner Schatzel was suggesting, public access to the port. Now, I understand Mr. Toft was saying that, there has to be some high security, but maybe, if you're going to do that revamp, allow some public entry point, like how beaches, typically they allow some public entry point, even if it's privately owned property. And then tours of the port would be fabulous. I would love to take Girl Scouts or Cub Scouts or Scouts BSA members on tours of the port, whether that's the rice, watching the rice mill or watching the cranes of the ships unload or load. And then I'm also curious, and I know this is not the port necessarily, but the locks, if that might be something that the city could also open up for tours, that would be very educational. Thank you.
Hi there. I'll just, on your last comment about the locks, there is a long-term plan that is going to be incorporated into a central park, which Tracy is, planning and cobbling together funding for. So the lock eventually will very much be a public facility as part of a larger central park.
I'm not seeing any comments from any other commissioners. So I would like to ask, I think you may have answered my question, Megan, but how the rowing or sailing club obtained that much land at the port. Is it is it correct that they've essentially increased their lease? So they're going to expand their lease agreement to include that plot of land. Is that correct?
Yeah, so River City Rowing and Lake Washington Sailing Club are essentially splitting that 1 acre parcel. And then they will enter into separate lease agreements for that parcel with new terms. So I'll let Rick if there's any other historical, but that property essentially became available. And they, from my understanding, came and presented this idea. And that was kind of how the conversation started. And we're still in negotiations. And so they're not actually in a lease. It's a multi-phase project. And we're kind of in the final stages of developing a long-term lease. They're in a short-term lease currently for that property to update it. And then once they actually enter into, phasing of the actual development, then we'll enter into a long-term lease with both of the clubs. But they are splitting that 1 acre parcel.
Yeah, I would just add that we've long wanted to expand recreation at the port. As Megan noted, that was one of the Port Commission's earliest priorities. And so we went through a very long 7 to 8 year process of cleaning up. It's a long story, but in the waters kind of behind my background here, there was a number of abandoned vessels that took us a long time to clean up through funding from the state, Boating and Waterways. And so kind of the natural payoff for that cleanup was expanding recreation. And the Sailing Club and River City Rowing Club have long wanted to expand. Their resources are limited, so it's been difficult, but they finally got together, collaborated, and came up with a plan. We had leased that parcel out to a construction company prior to that. So it's been a long process of giving notice to the tenant to have them leave and get this expansion project started. And so the way we phased it is, as Megan noted, is we gave them a 2-year license and said, okay, you will be entitled to a long-term lease if you develop a community service plan and the commission is satisfied with kind of how you are contributing to the community. And so that's going well. And so we're optimistic. I think we will be early next year talking about 5-year leases with each of those clubs based on their sweat equity for improving the site and for providing more opportunities to the community.
And were the other two clubs, UC Davis and the Washington Outboard Club, were they presented with an opportunity to expand as well, or did they show any other interest in obtaining more land or expanding their lease agreements? Was this opportunity presented to the other clubs as well?
I would say yes. I mean, the clubs, they have monthly meetings where they all get together and talk about what each club is doing. And so as you've seen, they're all coexisting out there in a fairly, tight space. So they know each other quite well. So UC Davis, we've given them multiple opportunities over the years. They've downshifted from an NCAA sport to club, so they don't need or want additional space. We have collaborated with them to move a fence line, and they've been very good to work with. And then on the rowing club, their members come and go with trailered boats. And so their main issue right now is repairing their boat ramp. And so we've been facilitating that project with them, but they've never approached us for more property. And, beyond this little expansion area, there's really not more property available. This is low-lying land that is not otherwise developable, so it's perfect for recreation. And it's really all we have to expand recreation at this time.
The plan for the expansion, will that include parking for those clubs, or I know the parking is limited down there. There's a gate, I think, and then a little bit of parking just outside the gate and inside the gate. And then there's the large parking area kind of at the top of the small incline there. Will the club, as part of this new land lease, provide some parking for its members, or will everyone be expected to share the limited parking down below and the expanded parking up top?
Yeah, I think the upper parking lot becomes more important. That upper lot is actually leased by all 4 clubs. They all pay us a nominal fee per year, and so that is really their opportunity to park when that lower area fills up. And we improved that. We improved that lot a few years ago. We graded it and put some asphalt grindings down, and so it's a nice level lot that drains well in the wintertime.
So the lot will basically be for expansion and boat storage. Then it won't be for member parking. That's right.
So it's 2 things. For the sailing club, it's boat storage, so that their members can store boats on site and not have to trailer them back and forth. And theoretically, that will make it easier to be a member out there, and so you don't have to trailer your boat back and forth. And then on the rowing club side, it's really an expansion of it's a new dock, it's a picnic shelter, it's workout facilities. So it's a combination of boat storage and rowing facilities and workout space.
Thank you. Vice Chair Reed, you have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you, Megan, for a very thorough presentation, and Rick for answering these questions. And this may have been covered, so I apologize if it has, but with respect to the improvements that have been made on the site by any of the leaseholders, at some point in the future, if they are no longer leasing the facility, what is the disposition of the improvements that have been made during the leasehold?
Yeah, great question. They become real property, right? If they're affixed to the land, those improvements would become the property of the port as the landowner. Anything that was, like a storage shed or something, perhaps they could haul off. But the picnic shelter, for example, that the rowing club is going to build is a fixed facility. We would, we all anticipate that their leases will continue. But in the event that they didn't, that would become the property of the port.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Any other questions from commission? I don't see any hands raised. I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. I know the port operation and how it ties into the city of West Sacramento was something that I had inquired personally about to a few members of city staff and other commissioners. So to have an understanding of how the whole operation really works and how it ties into the community was extremely helpful. So I was very happy to be a part of this meeting. So thank you for that. I get a lot of questions about it because of the barge canal access, and then people see people with motorized boats or sailboats, and they're always asking me, how do they get that in there? Because a lot of the people that access it from the barge canal are in, small kayaks or, float tubes or small personal watercraft. So having a better understanding of how the two entities are working together. I very much appreciate that. So thank you for your time and thank you for the presentation.
Of course.
Well,
all right. So
thank you, Megan. Rick.
My screen here. All right. So moving on to the consent agenda, we have consideration of the approval of minutes from the April 6th, 2021 regular meeting. I was not present, so I'll recuse myself from the approval. Help me out here. I believe I'm requesting approval of the minutes, or do we review them first? I don't remember.
You're asking for a motion to approve.
All right, thank you. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 6th, 2021 meeting?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Vice Chair Reed moves to approve. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Second.
That was Commissioner McTighe and Commissioner Altamirano, I believe.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, moving on to our regular agenda. Item 5, consideration of proposal for a memorial sign at Riverwalk Park for the Submariners Lost boats. Correct?
Chair Jans, I will need to take a roll call vote to approve the minutes for the record.
Pardon me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ahmad? I believe she's still here. Commissioner Altamirano?
Aye.
Commissioner Castro?
Aye.
Commissioner Jans?
Do I recuse myself? I wasn't present for the meeting.
I believe yes, you have that option.
All right, I'll recuse.
Thank you. And Commissioner McTighe?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Schatzel?
Aye.
Thank you. And I believe Commissioner Mott sent me a message earlier. She was having some connectivity issues. So they are approved. Thank you.
Do we have a quorum still with Commissioner Ahmad? Okay, fantastic. All right, so now moving on to the regular agenda, item 5. I think I've read it already, but the consideration proposal for a memorial sign at Riverwalk Park. And we have Sam Cooney. Hi, Sam. You're on mute, friend. There you go.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Commissioners, I'm Sam Cooney. I'm the Parks Operations Superintendent for the city. And some time ago, we received an application from the Submariners Memorial Group here in the Sacramento Valley. The Gold Country chapter has asked for approval to place a monument at the Riverwalk Park immediately adjacent to the Veterans Memorial Plaza. I believe you've all got the information as far as the memorial itself and some pictures of the location. So if Barry Wyatt, commander of the group, is available, he has an opportunity to speak here and has requested an opportunity to present the group to the commission. Barry?
Thanks, Sam. After watching the Girl Scouts presentation, I was thinking we might have been better off bringing our junior ROTC kids in for the night. But at any rate, I'll struggle with this a little bit. Obviously, just in way of background, the Gold Country-based submarine veterans is comprised of about 100 members from kind of the 8 surrounding counties. We meet monthly on a regular basis. All the members are submarine qualified veterans. And once in a while, we get a new member or someone that steps in that's actually on active duty in our United States Submarine Force. We promote several community events. Probably the keystone event that we do every year is our Pearl Harbor Memorial at Discovery Park across the river from you guys. And the Yolo County Sheriff Water Patrol began the support of that event about 35 years ago when our World War II subvets were involved, and have continued every year. Every year, the Yolo County sheriffs provide the boat in the river from which we place the wreath on December 7th. We enjoy our involvement with the greater Sacramento area submarine veterans and all veteran groups. For instance, not too distant future, your VFW in West Sac had a huge flooding problem, and we stepped up and offered whatever assistance we could possibly do to help with that event. So, and to the best we can, we are self-funded by our own members, and you know, most of our guys are older, but we've been focused on this issue for about the last 3 or 4 years. And I met with Sam a couple of years ago to kind of begin taking a look at it. One of the things that strikes us the most about the location is that you in West Sacramento are one of the very few areas in this entire geographic area that have devoted any kind of space to honor veterans. I saw in the news the other night that Placerville opened up a spot up there, but there's, you know, we're still kind of stepchildren in a lot of areas. And the site that we're looking at is beautiful. It's it overlooks the river. It's adjacent to the other veteran area there, and you know, it's our hope that we can move forward with this location. There are lost boat memorials throughout the state of California, most of which exist on the coast, Mare Island, San Diego, other areas where you would expect those types of monuments to exist. There is one, however, in Fresno, on the campus at Fresno State. They dedicated a long walkway where they planted 52 trees, each one representing a World War II lost submarine. There have been 64 lost boats since the beginning of the submarine Navy, both in war and peace. More recently, the Thresher and the Scorpion. The USS Thresher actually went down off the East Coast. I was in submarine school at the time that boat was lost, and the Scorpion in 1968. This idea for this memorial is not just to honor those men that have perished, but it's also to represent the men and women that currently serve in our submarine force. So our idea in terms of the actual look of the memorial or the plaque or the would be to list the submarines that are that have been lost, and our tradition on that is to list their name, alongside that their hull number and the date that they were lost. But in addition to that, we want to put a paragraph that's readable that honors the men and women that are currently serving and those that would serve in the future as well. What we offer beyond that, and I've got a couple of pictures that I can put up. I'm certainly certainly not as sophisticated as the Girl Scouts were. But what we offer in addition to that is when my Vice Commander Les Jameson and I visited recently, we noticed that all the plaques that are representing each conflict that the America's armed forces have been involved in have been damaged by graffiti and tried to be cleaned up. They've been cleaned up, but they're still have a damaged look. And it would be our pleasure to help, and I've mentioned this to Sam, in terms of either replacing or trying to fix those plaques. The flags that are in that area, both the American flag and the POW flag, are old and worn. And again, we would happily take on the responsibility to replace those flags on a regular basis. So that's kind of what we're about and who we are. If you'd like, I can put up a couple of pictures to give you kind of an idea. Let me just tell you about how we approached building this thing. After lots of discussions with members, and we have members that are contractors and so on and so forth, we came to the idea that our best bet would be to contact an actual monument company. Those companies that do basically headstones for graveyards and that type of thing. A professional company to carry out the entire project, from laying the foundation to doing the engraving and so on and so forth. And to that end, we contacted a couple. We've talked to two different ones, we are wide open on the design. We are wide open on additional content. We would be, and basically are looking to you, commissioners, for direction in terms of what would be acceptable to the space. So let me let me see if I can share a couple of pictures. Okay. So basically, this is the location. To the right is the Veterans Plaza. And Sam, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the spot that we've been talking about putting this thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
You know. All right, so I got one down. Let me see what else I can do here. When I talk about the lost boats, this is the list. And as you can see, basically the ship's names, their hull number, and the date that they went down. Almost all of these submarines went down with all aboard. And we all knew, serving in this force as volunteers, that possibility could be always present for all of us. I'm going to try, I think, I thought I had. Okay, give me 1 second, please. So this was the design of the actual monument that was given to us by one of the professionals that we went to. And basically the surface area, which I have another picture that describes a similar type of thing. But basically the content on the face would be the list of those lost boats and the paragraph that I'm talking about. So let's see if I can, I'm really proud of myself here. So this is a Lost Boats Memorial somewhere. Ours would reflect a little different tenure. This is basically the submarine at the top is a World War II boat. But the dolphins, the lists on either side are those lost boats, and the center part is a description of our current and our past submarine force. All of that content would be provided to the commission prior to us engraving anything for your approval. We would provide an actual picture or diagram of exactly what would be on it, and so on and so forth. So that's my that's my presentation, and I'm happy to entertain questions. Sam, did I get it all?
Nicely done, Barry. I'm thoroughly impressed with your tech savvy. Okay. You did a beautiful job. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. Questions?
Vice Chair Reed.
Yes, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation, Barry. You should be very proud. Your screen sharing skills are excellent. I am very interested in the content of the narrative that's going to be on the monument, as I couldn't make out any wording on the picture that you showed, but insofar as the kiosks and other things that we're putting into our parks, et cetera, I think our big concern would be that it's educational for a range of audiences, including our youngsters, our students who understand what the significance of the service is and was during major conflicts. So I appreciate you saying that we would have access to the narrative before it's engraved, because I think it's an important part of our history, and that educating people of all ages and recognizing, especially those who served, is an important aspect of what you're doing. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Thanks, Mrs. Reed. Any other questions? Taking over your job, Dave.
That's okay. That's all right. I'd like to make a comment. I do have a question as well. First of all, I think it's fantastic, a fantastic idea. I think veterans of our country should be honored and remembered and respected for what they provided to our country and to our families. So I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm in full support of a monument and recognition. So I want to thank you for doing that. A couple questions. One of them is with regard to the content, as Vice Chair Reed brought up. I was just curious if any of the boats, ships that were listed in that list had any ties to our area, maybe visited or sailed in the area, or even in the state, if they were known to be moored from a certain station in the state of California. I think that would be something that would be of curiosity to some folks, but particularly if any of them touched local waters in the river or maybe even in the bay, things of that significance would be, I think, of value, and touch on the educational portion that Vice Chair Reed brought up. And it's just nice to know, it's nice to know that these ships, were close to us and probably had family in the area or whatnot. So relatives, et cetera. But I think it's a fantastic project. I think the location is perfect. Being near the veterans area there on the Riverwalk, like you said, it's a beautiful area and it'll get a lot of traffic, so it'll get a lot of views, which is the most important thing. A lot of people are going to see it, which I think is really important. I think it's an honor to have that on our side of the river, and I think when you mentioned the respect that the city of West Sacramento has shown veterans, really kind of touched me emotionally. I think that that makes me proud again to be a West Sacramentan and be a part of this community. And it kind of drives me to volunteer my time to things like this. So I'm really glad you shared that little piece of information as a point of pride, but also that our city can do the right thing and honor our veterans in the right way. So I'm really glad you shared that. Is there any funding requirements or needs regarding this monument that maybe we could help as a community to fundraise or help support labor, whatever it may be? Are there any needs that you're needing right now to get the project moving forward?
The reason that it's taken us 2 or 3 years is we've been steadily raising funds, and we're sitting on a treasury of somewhere close to about $15,000, which is about 14,900 more than when we started. So our guys, when we dig in and do a project, we built a memorial bench at the National Cemetery about 7 or 8 years ago, and with contributions from our members. So I don't think that we're going to ask for help on the funding end of the process. I think that we have the capability, but I will tell you this, that I'm not so sure. We meet, for instance, at the Folsom Veterans Hall. For many years, we met in West Sacramento, right down on F Street. So that city owns that building, and it's the only civic-owned veteran or building in the county, in Sacramento County, for sure. What I do think is important is for us to publicize through our network, through all the various veteran organizations throughout the county and throughout West Sacramento and Solano County and the general area, the fact that you do have that Veterans Plaza and one of my thoughts was that we'll reach out to those folks to generate income to be able to do the kind of maintenance on the existing plaques and so on and so forth that you've already erected on there. To the last point, Mare Island and San Francisco area built hundreds of submarines during World War II. San Diego based, Mare Island still functioning as a facility. So lots of submarines were built in this state, and many of them perished during the war. So we do have that link, and that's a great idea that we maybe could, in terms of content, dig deeper and try to associate general geographic area submarine veterans and their boats that may or may not have perished, and be able to but our goal, Dave, is to talk about tomorrow And you mentioned the youth to talk about the fact that these aren't war machines, they're deterrents. And you know, the impact of the fleet ballistic missile submarines on which I served kept us from nuclear war and continue to do that to this day. So we want to be able to stress that in terms of the communication on the plaque as well. So yeah, I'm talking too much.
No, it's just, I find this fascinating personally. And should you be in need of volunteer assistance or whatever it be, I would invite you to come back to the commission and please, you know, reach out to us. All of us are here as volunteers because we love our community and we have ties to community and relationships with people in the community. So I'm confident that any one of the commissioners that I serve with would be happy to reach out and help get this monument erected. So I would invite you to come back.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item?
I see Tracy's hand.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Jans. I just want to mention that the recommended action in your agenda report is to approve the memorial. If this commission wishes to have a final review and approval of the content, then I would just request that you consider approving this item subject to future final approval of the content on memorial. That way we can progress knowing that the location and the monument supported, but come back with final content for consideration.
Yeah, fantastic. Do we have a motion on the floor to approve with final, to approve the monument with final approval of the content? Do I have Commissioner Schatzel?
Yeah, so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, I think the motion carries. I would also, if you come back for the approval, I'd be curious as to the maintenance plan. I think you already mentioned it as well, is how to make sure that the monument stays, you know, dignified and not vandalized and things like that. So, but it sounds like that's already something that's happening. But
yeah, we'll work with Sam at his direction to do whatever is necessary to help with that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for the presentation. I think it's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing the final or the suggested content and design.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll go ahead and call the roll call for that motion. The first motion was by Commissioner Schatzel and the second by Commissioner Reed. Go through Commissioner Ahmad. I don't know if she rejoined or not. I don't see her on there. Commissioner Altamirano.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Chair Jans.
Aye.
Commissioner McTighe.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Schatzel.
Aye.
We have a quorum for that. Thank you.
Sorry about that, Katie. I'll get that figured out sooner rather than later. All right. So thank you again. And we'll be moving on to item number 6 on our regular agenda, which is the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan Draft Park Impact Fee update from Director Michael.
Good evening. Yes, I'd like to share my screen real quick. Can everybody see that okay? Great. Well, good evening, Chair Jans and members of the Commission. I'm very happy to be bringing this item forward to you tonight. This has been really almost 4 years in the works. And so this is about the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan Park Impact Fee Update. So just a I want tonight to give you a little bit of background on the master plan. Some of you have been involved as commissioners of either this commission in the past or other commissions. But for those of you that haven't, I want to be able to provide you a little bit of context about the master plan effort. The 10-year capital improvement program that resulted from that master plan, as well as the funding strategy, both of those have been supported by this commission and adopted by council. But that is the foundation for updating our park impact fee, which has been delayed for a number of reasons. So a little bit about the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan. It was started in 2017, a 2-year effort that involved a lot of community engagement and planning, and it was adopted by the City Council in April of 2019. As part of that plan, and I did not attach that plan to the agenda report because it's very lengthy, but you can find it on our website. And if any of you want hard copies of it, we're happy to make those for you. Just email me or Katie and let us know, and we'll make sure you have a hard copy. It is the framework for all of our planning efforts as we move forward. It includes a 10-year CIP, Capital Improvement Program, and that's a list of all of the projects that we anticipate happening in a 10-year window based on the community feedback that we received. We did a lot of community engagement activities, and it also included a statistically valid survey, which is a very common type of survey that's completed for jurisdictions to provide you another level of input to make sure that the results that come in are distributed equitably geographically, by age group, by backgrounds, so that you have a lot of different levels of feedback. And based on that feedback, we had a prioritized list of different types of projects. Not surprising that trails and access to open space areas was one of the top priorities for our community, access to the waterfront and kind of preserving the open space, having more passive recreation opportunities, and then a lot of input about specific amenities housed in parks, like more restrooms, covered picnic shelters, reservable covered picnic spaces that could be used for gatherings. So all of that information went into a 10-year CIP, which is not listed in detail in your agenda report, but it is included in the Parks Master Plan. And I have an Excel spreadsheet that's got about 83 worksheets. That is what we used as a team internally to develop that list. So basically the plan helps provide a framework for our future work. And that includes making sure that we are trying to hit the General Plan 2035 park acreage goals, which currently is a goal of achieving 5 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. We are short of that right now. But if we look at all of the planned park development coming over the next 10 years, we get pretty close to meeting that requirement or that goal. I mean, we're just shy by maybe a few acres. And honestly, since the plan was adopted, we've had a few new park projects come up to add to our acreage. So I think we'll come very close to hitting that if all of the projects that we identified come to fruition over this 10-year planning period. We wanted to make sure we were meeting the level of service standards for park amenities. So based on our population size, we use general amenity targets that have been established by the National Park and Recreation Association and supported by our more local California Park and Recreation Society standards. And that looks at things like, based on a population of our size, how many rectangular playfields should you have to support a variety of sports, or diamonds for softball, little league, adults, softball, baseball? How many play structures should you have? How many covered picnic shelters and dog parks? And it goes into a pretty detailed list of amenities. And we look at that to see, do we have enough? And then beyond that, how are they located throughout the city to make sure that our residents have equitable access to them? We also wanted to make sure the new updated Parks Master Plan incorporated new development projects that weren't anticipated in the 2003 plan. So the Liberty Project, the Yarborough Project, and River Park are all really big developments planned in the Southport area that include a lot of park development that we needed to incorporate into the plan. We also have the Stone Lock District, the Central Park, which was mentioned earlier as part of our port discussions. It's sort of the re-envisioned Central Park that straddles the barge canal and the lock facility to create a linear park that seamlessly blends our flood protection with kind of interesting infrastructure and other recreation amenities and access to the riverfront. We definitely made sure that we were identifying community feedback and incorporating projects that implemented those priorities, and that we had a financially sustainable plan for moving forward. And all of that informs an updated park impact fee. Now, generally, the park impact fee is a development mitigation fee dating back to 1987 with legislation that was passed that allows us to identify impact fees to help mitigate the impacts on any type of development, really. For us, we're dealing with the park impact fee, mitigate park impacts that's caused by new development, both residential and other types of development. But we have a lot of impact fees in the city. We have sewer impact fees, we have childcare impact fees, we have transportation impact fees, among others. So anytime you have a new development move forward, there's a variety of impact fees that that project is responsible for paying for. For the park impact fee, those fees generate revenue that are used to finance new park and recreation facilities that are necessary to serve a growing community. These impact fees also help assure that new development projects pay their fair share for new amenities, specifically in our case, recreation facilities. And it's generally determined by taking that 10-year CIP, that master list of projects, looking at your projected development, how many new units, new square footage of commercial, retail, or industrial coming online, and based on that new development, generating a fee that that development will, and those fees will help contribute to the ultimate implementation of all of those projects in the 10-year CIP. So this slide highlights our current park impact fee. Our current fee includes two components. There's a neighborhood park fee and a community park fee. And we offer discounts for special geographic areas. Primarily it's in the Washington district, and it's in the capital, kind of our West Cap Avenue area. And that was started back during the recession as an incentive really to help foster development in these infill areas that are more expensive to build anyway. And with all of the impact fees, it can create a pretty heavy burden on the project. So both the transportation impact fee and the park impact fee, the neighborhood fee for parks was reduced to 50% for projects in those geographic areas. All of our impact fees have an annual inflator. So these fees look a little bit different today than they did last year, and then they will next year. And then there's some areas that these fees don't apply to. So special development areas, specifically the Bridge District, is an area that has its own financing plan. So all of the park development and even maintenance of a lot of the landscaped areas have their own special financing mechanism. And that was just part of the development agreement completed for the Bridge District. So we definitely included all of the Bridge District projects in the Parks Master Plan, but the financing for those improvements doesn't necessarily come from the park impact fee like in other developments. And what you can see from this slide is that our park impact fees are actually pretty high. In fact, they're the highest in the region. And it's because we don't have some of the other fees that some of our neighboring jurisdictions have that also help contribute towards park development. We have one fee, a park impact fee.
In some other jurisdictions, you will see a Quimby fee, which is a fee collected used for land acquisition only. And then there's a separate fee for improvements on land. There might be an open space or a trails fee, and we don't have those. So you're not necessarily comparing apples to apples when you look at our fee compared to other jurisdictions, but overall our fee's high, and our impact fees in general are high. And we have developed a funding strategy that looks to other revenue sources to help us accomplish our 10-year CIP so that we could hopefully try to get these fees reduced a little bit. Yeah, just for example, if you had a 500 unit project, you're looking at a very significant park impact fee. If you looked at $16,000 in fees per unit. So just to touch on our CIP, our capital improvement plan, when we put that together, we identified projects in 3 categories. The first category, what we refer to as bucket number 1, are our sustainable projects. These are for projects to existing facilities, life cycle replacement and repair of our existing facilities. So our park sites, the amenities that are housed within those park sites, those types of projects are not eligible to be funded with park impact fee funds. Typically, it's the general fund that pays for those types of projects. We can also tap into some other sources like Measure E or Measure K for those projects that are eligible to be considered for those sales tax measure funding. But it's really important to identify this, because when we build projects, once we get them built, we have to look very carefully to make sure that we have the resources to maintain them over the long term, and that tends to fall on the general fund. Then we have 2 other buckets. The second bucket is what we call expanded services, and that might be existing facilities, but we're expanding them in some fashion. Either we're expanding the property, or we are making improvements to a site that will expand recreation on site. So you can add new amenities. You could add, for example, lighting to a soccer field that now allows you to extend play in the evenings. You could add shade structures over play areas, or that extends play opportunities, the length of time people can now safely or more comfortably enjoy using them. And for many expanded services, those are eligible to be funded by park impact fees. You have to evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. And then bucket 3 is the visionary bucket. That's completely renovating a park. It's a brand new park development, and items in bucket number 3 are eligible for park impact fee funding. So when we looked at the PIF, the park impact fee, and all of the projects that need to go into the updated PIF, we're primarily looking at bucket 2 and bucket 3 type projects. In developing the 10-year CIP, we made sure that what we were considering was financially viable. It included projects that were likely to be implemented in a 10-year period. So as we looked at new development like the Central Park, Yarborough, River Park, Liberty, we know that those projects aren't going to be fully built out in 10 years. So we worked with the developers to make reason, and our planning department, who has been tracking how much development has occurred, since the city was incorporated, to develop some reasonable estimates of what kind of development was likely to happen over 10 years and what types of park projects would come online as a result of that development. And then we also made sure that the 10-year CIP was consistent with other planning efforts. So Commissioner Schatzel asked about the port recreation activities and whether or not that was part of our park impact fee. It's not included in our park impact fee, but it was certainly included in our parks master plan. And calculating the acreage of recreation opportunities we were offering our community, even though it's not completely publicly accessible for free, it still is a recreation amenity that our community offers. So at the time we did the Parks Master Plan update, there was still a lot of uncertainty about the expansion component, but the existing facilities were certainly incorporated. So the funding strategy that we took to this commission several years ago and to the council that was adopted included an approach where we looked at our total CIP. We looked at all other available funding sources that could contribute to helping us implement the CIP. And then the resulting value or number was the funding we knew we needed to get from the park impact fees. So this slide highlights the list of all of the neighborhood park impacts, neighborhood park improvements that were in the buckets 2 and 3. So not bucket number 1, not life cycle replacement. All of the improvements for neighborhood parks, as well as community parks and the value of those improvements. And like I said, I've got this very detailed spreadsheet that has a breakdown of every single project listed for each of these line items. And the value of the two combined is, just under $112 million. Now, a big piece of that is on the community park side. We have the Bright Park master plan improvements, and completing the master plan improvements was identified as a priority. So we estimated the cost to complete the master plan at just over $20 million. That's a big price tag. But there are a lot of other projects that are also expensive coming online, and we wanted to make sure we were capturing all of those. Then we looked at other funding sources, the potential to tap into other funding sources like our sales tax measure funding and grant and partnership funding, which is a really big part of how we fund our projects. And we tried to explore what the potential revenue stream for those funding sources would be over the next 10 years, knowing that many of these funds would be committed for other projects, but just as a check-in to see what's the magnitude of funding potentially available and what are we looking at needing to fund. We identified that we thought we could conservatively rely on funding from other sources in about $65 million worth of project costs. That includes some grant funding that we've already received actually since the plan was approved, because it's been a few years. And I forgot to mention why we didn't update the PIF right away. When the park impact fee was ready to go forward after the master plan adoption, there was a lot of question about how a lot of our trail projects related to the transportation impact fee. So trail projects kind of overlap both types of impact fees. Historically, recreation corridors have always been included in the park impact fee, but there are a lot of trail projects that are now starting or have the potential to serve as active transportation corridors. And some of those have already received significant grant funding, like the Sycamore Trail project. So we wanted to wait to coordinate the two fee updates together. And we started that process, but the transportation impact fee update started to lag a little bit, and it still hasn't been updated. And then COVID hit. And so we're at a point now where I'd like to get the park impact fee update approved, because spoiler alert, what we're recommending does result in a slightly lower fee that can really help development projects that are in the queue right now and those hopefully coming in the near future. And so I'd like to get this updated. And then if we need to go back and make updates at another point, which might be likely because the city is going to be looking at all of the fees kind of as a whole, then we could certainly have an opportunity to revisit the park impact fee at that time. But that's why this is lagged behind. And since then, we've received grant funding for a lot of projects already. So it's aggressive to rely on such a significant amount of money from other funding sources. But based on our track record and the way that as a city, we've been able to achieve a lot of success with grant funding, we think that it's reasonable. And council did too, and they supported the funding strategy when they adopted the updated Parks Master Plan. So to determine what the new park impact fee looks like, we use something called equivalent residential units. And this is the base unit that's used. One ERU, or equivalent residential unit, is a detached single family residence, because a single family unit is likely to have the most impact on park development. And then all other uses are kind of evaluated based on a percentage of that single family unit. So what you see here in this table is you have one single family unit is a 1.0 ERU, a multifamily unit is less, 0.82 ERUs. That's based on average square footages for developments. And then you figure out the square footage of commercial, office, and industrial that equates to 1.00 ERU. So we take the ERUs and apply them to our future anticipated development. And that we went through a very lengthy exercise with our community development and economic development staff to anticipate as best as we could the development to happen over the next 10 years. It's not perfect, but we think it's a pretty good representation. And based on that, we're able to get to the number of ERUs for neighborhood parks and community parks that the impact fee needs to carry. And it's about 4,000, give or take a few, for each of those categories. For the neighborhood park fee calculation, we looked at the total CIP for the neighborhood park projects. We looked at the funding sources likely, other funding sources likely to support those neighborhood park improvements. And then we looked at the community park impact fee projects and have, this just highlights the total equivalent residential units for the community park fee calculation. And what that equates to in terms of fees, when you look at the total value remaining that needs to be picked up by the park impact fee, it's about $9,215 per ERU for community park impact fees. I think I skipped over neighborhood, sorry. So go back to the neighborhood one. That's what threw me, is we have our total eligible project cost for neighborhood parks is a little over $18 million. We anticipate funding of about $11.2 million from other sources that could come in, resulting in a balance of neighborhood park impact fees that need to be picked up by the PIF of $7.5 million. When we apply the ERUs, the equivalent residential units that we developed for neighborhood park improvements, that equates to a little over $1,800 per ERU for neighborhood park improvements. And then, as I just mentioned, about $9,200 for the community park impact fee. So what that results in is an updated proposed impact fee that is lower than our current fee. So our current fee is highlighted in the first column here. It shows that the total single family fee right now is a little over $16,000 per unit. With our proposed funding strategy, the updated impact fee would be reduced to a little over $11,000 per unit. We are assuming right now and recommending that those geographic areas that have a discounted neighborhood park impact fee remain. So we can continue to give them that discount. The community park fees are not discounted. And in fact, for commercial, office, and industrial, those developments only pay the community park impact fee, because it's envisioned that those types of businesses are bringing in employees that may impact our community park system, but not really the neighborhood parks, which are geared towards serving the immediate residents that live adjacent to those parks. The multifamily fee would also come down from $13,000, a little over $13,000 to a little over $9,000 per multifamily unit. And then we also have a reduction in the price per square foot for commercial, office, and industrial. So I've had questions. We've shared this with the chamber, who has been very supportive of us trying to find unique ways to finance park and recreation projects to help lower our fees. But I have been asked, well, what would happen if we didn't do that? What if we wanted the park impact fee to fully cover everything that's in the CIP? And this third column on this table demonstrates what the fees would look like if we did that. They would go up significantly. They would go from $16,000 per single family unit to over $26,000 per single family unit. For the community, or for multifamily, it would go from over $13,000 per unit to $21,000 per unit. And the cost would double, more than double in some case, for commercial, office, and industrial. And we know that our fees are very high and discourage development, and we're not as competitive as some of our other neighboring jurisdictions because our impact fees are higher, and our economic development and housing staff will be bringing an overall fee analysis to council shortly that looks at all of our impact fees and how that impacts or discourages development. And it's always really difficult to find that sweet spot, because if you don't have development, you don't get any fees at all. So you want to have fees that help to promote implementation of our CIP, but we don't want to make them so high that we discourage development altogether. So, so our recommendation is that if we move forward with the funding strategy that this commission, past commission saw and council adopted as part of the Parks Master Plan, we would have an updated impact fee that is highlighted in this middle column here. So in terms of next steps, I did want to highlight that most recently we did present this information to the chamber. They've been actively involved in the Park Master Plan update process, and kind of monitoring where that park impact fee might go. So we did present to them, and they were supportive of this approach. And here I am presenting this to you this evening for your input and feedback, so that we can gear up to get this to council for their consideration, hopefully in July, so that we could implement an updated park impact fee shortly thereafter. So that concludes my presentation. I'm welcome your comments, questions, feedback.
Vice Chair Reed.
Okay, it's a lot of information, Tracy. Thank you so much. First of all, regarding the grantsmanship of the staff, as I've said before, I have worked with a lot of cities, and our city is one of the best at chasing down these grants and partnering on them and actually succeeding in securing them. So bravo for that, and you deserve a lot of credit. So I'm going to try and talk without clearing the room here. The fees, we've done fees for a long time, for many, many years, and many, many programs, and we've done it in kind of a siloed way. And over time, our developments do bear the cost of not only the impact that they have on recreation facilities, but also our transportation and infrastructure system, our schools, our lighting, our sidewalks, weather, and we fund in different ways. There's mellow roofs, there's other kinds of fees and permits, et cetera. And so it was, and of course, ultimately all those fees impact the price of the units when they go in the market. And we know that we have a housing crisis. So I'm very interested in what you said about taking a more holistic look at the entire fee structure that we use, and within the whatever confines we have with respect to law, and really, I think, look at it in an innovative way, that if there's a way that we could flip our fee structure in a way that incentivizes the kind of development that we want to attract into West Sacramento and make it feasible. There's lots of people way better than me to explore these issues. And so I compliment you for meeting with the chamber and engaging our development community in this conversation. But I'd like us to consider having a forum that engages kind of more experts and more people that are looking at these things and maybe a very innovative way to try and see if we can come up with sort of more of a win-win situation across the board with respect to our buyers, our community amenities, and the people that do business with the city of West Sacramento. So I'm going to stop there and just say I hope that we could go in that direction in some kind of a forum or a format that engages like really new ideas about how to go about this process. That's it. Thank you.
Tracy, did you have a response or?
Oh, sure. I think absolutely, Commissioner Reed, that effort has begun. There has been an interest internally at the city to take a look at our fees and kind of do a major overhaul of our fees. For a while, some analysis work has already happened. And of course, COVID kind of reprioritized a lot of things for us. But this has been discussed since the Parks Master Plan update was still being planned. The process was underway. So I know that will be happening at some point, but I don't know what the timing will be. And so that's why I was at a point with this effort and the consultant who had done all of the park impact fee update analysis work and trying to make a determination. Do we move this forward now knowing that the recommended action so far from staff is to move forward with the proposed update, which results in a lower fee, at least until we get to a point where we're looking at our fees very differently, because I don't know how much time that's going to take. Or do we just wait? But the fee that we have in place now is based on a dated Parks Master Plan. It's based on a CIP that's from the 2003 Master Plan. So we really do need to update the fees until we have a different fee structure in place.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against that approach at all. I think it's a good one, and especially since the fee would be lower, then we can plan on that basis. But in terms of the timeline, putting something together that would really get at the crux of a lot of this is going to take some more time. Mm-hmm. So I understand that as well. I'm just hoping that it will be something out of the box. It's a cliche. I don't know what others say. Stop doing what we're doing and do it differently and in a more innovative way that gets us closer to where we want to be. Is what I hope that we can bring in some crazy people who have some crazy ideas about how to go about this and how to make it, as well as the tried and true. I'm sorry, my dog is just he's feeling lonely. If it just take a really, really fresh and innovative look at what it is that we're doing and what everybody has to pay as a result and what we're getting in return and how to make it, see if we can, come closer to a win-win for everyone that's involved.
Thank you for the comments and feedback. Commissioner Schatzel, do you have a comment or question?
I have a comment. Thank you. Many years ago, I was at a city council meeting and we had changed some of our fees to be lower. And the mayor looked at me, Mayor Cabaldon, and I really appreciate him saying this, and so I'm repeating it. He said, if that's what it costs to get us the community we want, that's what it costs. And it took a load off of staff because it gave us the direction very clearly. That's where we're going. I think I don't really care what the region charges for fees, to tell you the truth. In my own mind, I mean, Roseville's going to charge what Roseville wants to charge. I think the fee should be what is best for West Sacramento. The increase, if I read that right, it went from $16,000 to $26,000 a unit. Now that's a lot. I mean, I really like the annual increase, the CPI index, and it goes up every year. That's good. I like that. But yeah, 16 to 26 is a lot. I don't think the fee should be lowered. I think we're going in the wrong direction. At very least, it should stay where it is. I think Commissioner Reed is right on point. When you look at the whole fee package, when you throw everything in there, not just the park fee, when you throw out everything, yeah, I think somebody crazy, you're right, needs to look at that. And because inevitably it's the park fee that gets picked on. It's, let's pick on the park fee. Let's lower the park fee. You're not at 5 acres per thousand. You're really at 3. I mean, that comes from the developers, but yet I've gone into real estate offices and we don't tell them my wife is a teacher, and we don't tell them I'm from the Parks and Rec field. And that's the first thing they talk about when they want to sell their units. You want to go to this school. You want to look at this park. Isn't it beautiful? Well, then I have conversations with people in the community who are just, why do all these other communities have these beautiful new facilities? Well, it's because they just built 2,000 houses. That's where the park fee generates the money. And then they say, gee, that's a lot of traffic on Jefferson. And it's like, So, back to Commissioner Reed's point, yeah, there's different ways to fund. We've got to look for different ways to fund. I don't want a park plan that is dependent on grants. I think grants are luck, and I think a plan that depends on luck is not the best plan. Whenever we get grants, fantastic, absolutely, but not to depend on it to achieve what we want for our community. I think I read in here too, which I also really liked. If you own a house, if I read this right, Tracy, you can help me out. If you own a house, then you renovate the house, you don't have to pay the park fee again. I thought that was good because that had been in there for a while and that helps some people out. But, look at it differently somehow, look at everything differently somehow. But if that's what it costs to get our parks the way we want them, then we really have to look at that. It's expensive. Parks are expensive. Then we always hear the argument, well, it discourages development. No, because they take the park fee and spread it out over a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage, and it really isn't as horrible as it's made out to be. So anyway, I've rambled too much, I think, but parks are expensive. New residents, new houses require new parks, and the price goes up all the time. And the new residents want the parks, and so they have to pay for it. Even though everybody else will benefit it, it's part of the fee structure. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And as you were speaking, Commissioner Schatzel, I remembered something. So I spoke in error. We did update the park impact fee at the time that the master plan was approved. We were able to demonstrate that the current fee structure, we could leave the current fee structure in place. It does not, it still relies on other sources of funding, as evidenced by the slide that showed, how much the CIP costs. And if we looked at our current fees, we would still need to rely on other funding sources, just not as much as with the proposed update where we're lowering the fee. So I totally forgot about that. We do have a current park impact fee that looks at the current parks master plan. But we were just able to demonstrate that if the fee stayed as it is, it does not cover all of our CIP costs. We are still relying on other funding sources. And so that can be good enough for now if the commission's input really recommends waiting until we do that overhaul. Now, Commissioner Schatzel, leaving the fee as is still doesn't get us to where the CIP needs to be if it's wholly funded by park impact fee funds. But it's kind of in the middle.
I think, yeah, I understand. I do think we need to move forward with this. Somehow we don't, even if it means, you know, you just go to the city council and get their input as well, and it comes back to us or comes back to the chamber. I don't want it to languish and just, gee, kind of we'll wait till the circumstances are right, because it's funny how the circumstances never get to right. And so we fall behind. We fall behind financially. You know, every time somebody builds, you know, they want to get in and build now with the fee now because it may go up. Well, it's not enough money. So I do encourage that we go forward with this. So.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I'll provide my my feedback. So thanks for the educational presentation. I concur with both Vice Chair Reed and Commissioner Schatzel on their opinions on this. I did have a question regarding the outside funding, the funding that's coming outside the CIP. I saw on that one slide there were a lot of voter approved measures on that list. So I had a little bit of feedback on that, as well as a question regarding how much of this CIP is funded from individual residents, meaning in property tax or direct fee assessment or any of that. Is any of, and this is more of an educational question for myself, but is any of this park impact fee being funded directly from tax-paying residents outside of the measures?
Yes, all great questions. So I should clarify that for the sales tax measure funding and even the other funding sources that we identify, those are potential funding sources. They're not committed. If we went through project by project to identify, you know, would this project be eligible for funding through the Liberty development impact fees specifically? Liberty and River Park and Yarborough have special financing plans in place when those projects move forward. Is this project located in an area that might be eligible for, as a trail project or trail amenity? That would be a good candidate for Measure E. Not a guarantee that we would use Measure E, because all of the projects would have to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. But it is not uncommon for jurisdictions to assume some percentage of funding for their 10-year or, you know, their CIP, however many years it is, would come from other funding sources. That's something that all other jurisdictions are doing. Some do it to a greater extent than others. So that was just a representation of the types of funding sources we could look to and the amount of revenue anticipated, not understanding fully the trade-offs associated with other projects that might need access to those funds as well. Then I would say for new park impact fees that are being paid, absolutely it's passed down to the home buyer. The developers who are building the projects will pass their fees on to the home buyer or to their tenants through their lease payments. It all gets funneled down to the end user of the space. So now, you know, each project is different. So it might be that some development projects would be willing to assume more of those costs by a lesser return if they're motivated to get a project moving forward. It depends on a case-by-case basis what the financial structure is. But generally speaking, as a home buyer if you're going to buy a house, you're paying those costs. It's part of the cost of your unit.
But there's no direct outside of that's. I mean, to me, that's kind of an indirect way of paying the CIP. Is there anything in place that's a direct assessment or direct bond or anything in place that would fund directly park or CIP funding?
The developer of a project has to pay those fees when they get their building permits, and they'll be specified in their permit at what point in the process they have to pay their fees. But they pay the fees directly through the building process.
But not the residents of West Sacramento, outside of the indirect fee from the developer, right?
Correct.
So a couple things. One is I saw, and I know it's just potential, but I saw Measure N as a potential source. If I remember right, Measure N was put in place with a caveat. Now there were other presented to voters as a public safety measure to help continue to fund and retain police officers and potentially even fund, fire department or other public safety. And I know there are some caveats in there that could provide funding to other areas, but just as a little bit of feedback, I would like to see Measure N reserved mainly for the public safety purpose that it was presented to voters. I think we have a tall order coming over the next, and this is my opinion, over the next 5 to 10 years, particularly with police, and the landscape of how we protect our cities is going to change drastically, as well as safety measures in place for, firefighters trying to do their jobs and other public safety. So I understand parks are a huge amenity to our residents, but I also think that public safety is also even takes precedent over that. And that's just a little bit of feedback. I'm not saying that, get rid of it entirely, but just a little bit of feedback for city staff that I think parks should not be a part of that, should be a part of that measure. Having said that, thinking outside the box a little bit, and I hate to be the bad guy to talking about taxes, but and working in real estate, I will say that it does impact. There are some small lots here that are sitting 60 acres plus, people who want to develop on them, build some houses, maybe custom homes on 1 to 2 acre lots. And they're sitting because of fees that are being applied. And, as an investor, if you're a developer, you're looking at rate of return. And when you calculate infrastructure, fees, permitting, et cetera, it's a little bit of a deterrent to some of those developers. Now, the large scale developers, they're heavily funded and can maybe absorb some of these things. But thinking outside the box, we have a special election coming up, and I know it's short timed, but if there was an opportunity to present something to voters to pick up a small portion of their property taxes and dedicate it specifically to an earmarked fund that could help improve and maintain the parks in our community, it might be worth at least a discussion. And maybe as Vice Chair Reed recommended, some sort of forum to get feedback from residents and seeing what the pulse is on whether they'd be willing to kick in a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit toward their own parks in their communities. It's something we all share, and as Commissioner Schatzel said, this is something that we all use and we all appreciate when we see another city or whatever has these lush, beautiful parks. They have to be paid for somewhere. And if the CIP is impacting development, if it is, being passed down or raising the prices of already inflated prices of homes due to inventory, maybe it's something at least worth discussing. I'm not suggesting that we do that, but it might be at least worth a conversation and see if that's something that, residents are open to. I don't know how much, I'm not the right person to determine what that would be. If it's going to be a large amount in order to help fund CIP, or if it could just be a smaller fee that's picked up annually, or even a bond that's taken out by the city and paid back over time. Those types of options could be, and I don't know. I don't even know if that is an option, honestly, but it certainly came up in my mind as I looked at the external funding. Is that an option?
Thank you. Well, I can't speak to the timing of that option. I don't know what it takes to really get something like that on a ballot. But I do know that other jurisdictions, Davis being one of them, you do have something like that. That fund maintenance of open space areas. It's mostly maintenance types of activities, but other jurisdictions do have that. I will say that also with Measure N, you raised some really, really good points. And when we first presented the funding strategy, we identified that Measure N was there, but we didn't make any assumptions about having access to any of it because it was still new and the council was still developing policy around how to prioritize use of those funds. But when it comes to park and recreation opportunities, only those that really can show a strong community benefit would even be eligible. And we have been able to use Measure N for one park project already. The Memorial Park improvements were funded in part by Measure N funding because of the great community benefit that those improvements provided. And when we shared the Bright Park Master Plan update more recently and workshopped that with the commission, we identified potential funding sources to move forward with the next phase of improvements. And we did identify Measure N as a potential funding source that could be vetted with council as part of their biannual budget process. And so that's happening now. In fact, that's happening tomorrow night. And I would expect that we will get some feedback from council about that because we do have to make ADA improvements by 2025. And although that seems like it's a long ways away, it takes time to get the designs done and to bid a project and get it built. And we were trying to secure the funding now, knowing that the grant environment for that particular site has been very challenging for us in the past. And you know, I'd hate to assume we're going to get grant funding for a good portion of that work and then not get it. So certainly we'll go after it, but I would see Bright Park as being a potential candidate for consideration for Measure N funding, but we'll hear more about that, I'm sure, tomorrow evening. But really good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And I just want to clarify, it's not that I'm against using it entirely. I just wanted to kind of just make sure that we watchdog it and make sure that we're not defunding any of these public safety entities because we're funding, the other projects. But I understand that a little bit can go here and there as part of the plan. But yeah, I mean, as far as a future measure or bond, I mean, I know, August or whenever this is coming up is very short term, but, something to consider for the future maybe, and just seeing what residents think of picking up a Davis type model as part of helping to fund their community. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? All right. Well, fantastic presentation again, and very educational too. I'm always fascinated by how much I learned just by being a part of this, and it helps me. I don't want to say it helps with the banter sometimes in the community when you get a frustrated resident or an uneducated resident. You can really help them understand what's really going on in their community and how things are funded. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we just have a feedback, right? There's no approval, anything for this particular item. Okay. So moving on to item 7, which is again with Director Michael, Director's report.
Thank you. Well, this evening, my updates are really focused on a lot of rec center activities. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul Reyes, our rec center manager, to
Thank you, Tracy.
good news.
Thank you, Tracy. The rec center has been open since August of 2020 and under modified hours. And the recreation center team is really, really excited now to be offering summer programs. We'll be offering swim lessons beginning June 7th, rec swim, believe it, beginning June 12th on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Our summer sports camp under modified numbers and clusters will start June 14th. And we're starting to open up with new programs, getting Group X classes out there at the Rec Center. We've got new equipment at the Rec Center now, Matrix. They just came in this past month. And we'll be running a new spin class. So we are just really excited to get people in there. Yes, we do have a lot of programs still outside. I think the participants are still a little bit uncomfortable because you still have to wear a mask indoors. But overall, we're just really excited to be serving the public and the community, and we're just excited to get started in serving the youth as well. Thank you.
That's great to hear. Fantastic. Is that everything for the director's report? Okay, well, thank you for the update. Yeah, I'd love to hear that we're getting back to quote unquote normal and these community things are opening up again. That's fantastic news. So item 7B is future item requests within the scope of the commission. Do any commissioners have any future item requests? I have a general question. I don't know that this would be something, but I'm just curious if there's any, I'm sure there is, but what the current discussion is when we can all meet in person again. I'm willing to sit between plexiglass, whatever, wear a mask. I don't really care, but personally, I'm ready to get back out there and meet in person. I really enjoy seeing everybody and having, building relationships with each other, getting to know everybody personally. So is there any word when we can get off the computer and get back to the dais?
No final word, but my hope is that by the next meeting, we might get there. Mid-June, I think a lot of things are going to be changing. It might take a little bit of time for whatever decisions are made at the state level to trickle down to the counties and then for us to implement. But we're working on a plan to reopen City Hall, and that kind of needs to happen first. But since the next meeting's in August, hopefully that gives us enough of a buffer to figure all that out and, when we can meet in person.
Fantastic. I mean, there are benefits, right? I mean, I'm able to multitask a little bit for the first 5 minutes of this meeting, but I would much rather walk in a little bit late if I have to see everybody in person. So, all right. Well, thank you for everything once again. If there's no other requests, then I make a motion to adjourn. Is that correct?
Ask for a motion to adjourn.
We'd ask.
All right. So do I have a motion to adjourn the June 1st meeting, 2021?
I move we adjourn.
In a second?
I second.
And thank the commission. This was a fun meeting. Thank you.
They're all fun, really. I really enjoy this commission. I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's great to be a part of, just to provide input on these fun projects. And it's just, it's an honor. So I appreciate it. And thank you for the nomination and confirmation of chair. I really appreciate that honor. So clerk, Katie, do we?
Thank you. Roll? That was motioned by Commissioner Reed and seconded by Commissioner Schatzel. Is that correct? Thank you. And Commissioner Mon. Here with us. Commissioner Altamirano?
Aye.
Commissioner Castro?
Aye.
Was that me? Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner McTighe?
Aye.
Vice Chair Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Schatzel?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. I don't have a gavel, but I have a pair of scissors, so we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.